Coming up, high school hoops teams are making the necessary year-end tune-ups as they prepare to make the postseason push. We'll get you caught up on the latest action from around the region.
And Ellie Brecht has been a huge part of Sioux Falls Lincoln's great season. Find out what this future Omaha Maverick thinks is the key to her success.
Which teams are still flying under the radar? Jason will let you know in this week's Fast Break.
All that plus Jay and I renew our rivalry as we make our picks for this week's best games. Varsity Sports starts right now.
And hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I'm Jay Elson. Well, let's get right to it, Jason. Get into this week's headlines. The postseason underway in North Dakota Class B girls basketball already. 4 teams out of each district will qualify for the 8 region tournaments, which are set to start next Monday and finish up either Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, so these teams that have won the district title, it means a little something to get that district title win, but you know, all the teams have now qualified for the regions. This is where it gets interesting, and you see on the graph here my favorites for each of the 8 regions, and it should be no surprise that some of these teams are on the list. You look for Bishop Ryan, Watford City. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Some of those real sleepers in the group. Kindred, undefeated. So this is where it really gets meaty, and the regions start happening next Monday. And by next week at this time, we'll have a lot better idea who's going to be at the state tournament.
Yeah, let's face it, playoff hoops, everybody loves this time of year.
Everybody loves it.
All right, let's go to the Class A boys in North Dakota now. The Minot boys have been about as close to flawless as you could be. The Magi haven't had a single-digit win since January 16th against Century. Well, round 2 with the Patriots coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, that's the big headline this week is how are they going to handle the toughest game that they've had this year, now going on the road to play in Bismarck. This one should be a good one, and probably a preview for something we might see down the road.
Yeah, maybe you might think. Well, moving to South Dakota now, Aberdeen, Roncalli, and Del Rapids faced off in Mitchell for what might have been a State A title preview.
Yeah, Roncalli was coming off of their first loss in state to a Class A team off of a Clark Willow Lake game just the night prior. We wonder how they'd rebound. Well, they rebounded in a big way. Had a huge second half, taking down Del Rapids. Brady McNary led all scorers with 25 points and 5 trays in that game. That's one thing that makes the Cavaliers so tough.
Yeah, they are dangerous outside for sure. In Class AA, what a week for Rapid City Stevens' Sam McLeod. He scores 32 against crosstown rival Central in a win, and 7 days later he leads the Raiders to an upset of the number 2 team in the state.
I'll tell you what, this guy's making a case for Player of the Year. He's doing it in a huge way, averaging over 20 points a game, over 10 boards a game, and took out the number 2 team in the state almost single-handedly with that 30-plus point performance.
That's the problem with him being the Player of the Year. Not enough around him, and he's had to do it all himself a lot this season. Well, finally, Sanborn Central Woonsocket sophomore Maya Sellen has already reached the 1,000-point plateau for her career.
You don't see many sophomores at this mark. She's been playing on the varsity team since she's been an 8th grader, and she's really commanded this year's team and been the go-to scorer. She hasn't always been that number 1 option, but she's taken that very well. Only a couple years left. Who knows? Maybe 2,000s in her career.
It very well could be at this rate. Congratulations to her for reaching that mark. Well, Sioux Falls Lincoln's Ellie Brecht has molded herself into one of the most complete players in South Dakota. We'll introduce you to the Omaha-bound senior when we come back.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back. Well, another week brings another profile of one of the region's top high school basketball players. Tonight, the Varsity Sports Spotlight stops on Ellie Brecht. Jason went one-on-one with the Sioux Falls Lincoln standout, and he joins us now with more.
Thanks, Jay. Influenced by parents who are both college athletes, Ellie Brecht can't remember a time when it wasn't her goal to play college basketball. Well, that goal will be realized after her senior season when she enrolls at the University of Nebraska-Omaha. But until then, she is laser-focused on winning for her high school team. One of the first priorities in the Brecht family is to play sports.
Yeah, basketball is always a priority, and when you live in a basketball family, a family of athletes, and I think for me, it's just always, my mom played college basketball at a high level, my dad played college sports, so I think that it's just always been a given that I thought I was going to play.
This season, Ellie has had the opportunity to play with her sister Anna. It's been a new but fun experience.
Obviously a change, kind of getting used to it. I've never played with my sister. It's a different dynamic, but it's definitely a good one.
Take a look around the state. It will be hard to find a shooter as good as Ellie Brecht, but she's worked hard to show that she's a great all-around player and not just a shooter.
As last year progressed and then into this year, I knew that I wasn't going to get all those open looks, and so in my workouts and in my free time, I worked on, making my game more versatile, getting to the rim, post play, shooting off the dribble, and just overall making it more diverse.
She was known, especially that junior year, as far as catch and shoot. A lot of our sets were her running off screens and catching and shooting. And now this year, she's added that to her game as far as catching, putting the ball on the floor for a dribble or two, and then pull-up jumpers. So I think the older she gets and the physically stronger she gets, she's going to become an even more complete player, and I think they're going to be really happy with her at UNO.
As a sophomore, Ellie had the opportunity to be on a state championship team. This season, she sees some similarities to that team, as well as some differences.
I think both teams were really close. That group of girls, we were really close, especially when it got towards the end of the season, towards tournament time. But I think this year is also a completely different year than that year, as we're kind of more of a looked higher upon than we were that year. We went into the state tournament ranked 5th, so it's a little different story than this year. But I think both teams were a really close group of girls. So.
Her team, the Lincoln Patriots, are on the short list of contenders for a state title this season. Ellie hopes this year her team will have another special ending.
There's definitely that extra desire too, because I know what it feels like to win a state championship, and it's a great feeling, one that you really can't describe, and I want her to get that feeling, but more than that, I want us to do it together. And I think that would be really special and something that we would hold on to forever. Just doing it together as sisters is just kind of a different than just a regular teammate.
All right, Jason, here's a look at Ellie's stats so far this season. Pretty good.
Pretty good is right. She's almost to 1,000 points for her career. But what her coach tells me that she's doing so well this year is her improvement on defense. She's worked a lot on her lateral movement, on her defensive moves, and that's really put her in a new class of some of the best players in the state. And let me tell you what, Brittany Lang of Omaha is very excited to get her next year.
She is a tremendous shooter, and she's going to bring a lot of heart and elevated IQ to our program, so we're very excited about what she can bring, especially on the offensive end, but she rebounds really well for her position. I think the challenge or the next step for Ellie has to be just getting used to the college pace and her ball handling, because people are really going to key on her on the perimeter. So if she can really add that element to her game, I think she's going to be a really successful college player for us.
All right, coming up, KFYR's Lee Timmerman joins us to talk a little WDA hoops. But first, Jandy attempts to extend the reach of the Varsity Sports radar. We'll cover that and more as we run the fast break next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back. Well, it's time to run the fast break. I ask the questions, Jason answers, but the trick is he's got to get it done before the shot clock buzzer. So let's put 35 seconds on the board. And here we go. Our first topic, Jason, most improved teams. Give me one squad, regardless of class, that is way better now than they were early in the season. We're going to start with North Dakota girls.
All right, well, we're not talking championship contenders. We're talking teams who have really gotten through a tough part of their schedule and seem to be peaking right now. And I think Fargo South fits that mold perfectly. You got Maddie Erickson, Emily Strupp, who combined for, about 30 points a game between the two of them. won 6 of their last 8 games after that poor 2-9 start that they have. A very young team, and I think that's a theme here. We're going to see a lot of young teams that are hitting their peak right at this time.
All right, how about the boys' side of North Dakota?
Boys' side of North Dakota, I think West Fargo, this one doesn't fit the same type of mold, but they did start out a little bit rough this year, a 3-2 start. They lost 3 home games this year, but I think right now on a 9-game winning streak with an absolutely dominating performance on Tuesday night against Grand Forks Red River, they look like they could be in that top tier right at the right time.
All right, switch it up. South Dakota now, most improved girls team.
I think you got to look at a team like Sioux Falls Roosevelt. I mean, there's a couple teams to pick from. Rapid City Central is another team that's really had a couple big upsets over the last 2 weeks against ranked teams. But Roosevelt might be the best 5-10. What are they? 5-10, 6-10 team in the state right now. A 2-8 start for them, but a lot of those losses coming to really good teams. And again, we're talking about a really young team that seems to be putting it together at the right time. Of course, Tagan Larson was hurt at the beginning of the year. She's back in full force. Jamie Spicer is playing some great ball right now, and a lot of the rest of the young talent on that team is just getting better and better. That's a team that could pull an upset off in the playoffs.
What about the boys?
Boys side, I think you got to look at Sioux Valley. We talk a lot about Sioux Valley on this show, but it's a team that when everything is clicking for them, I think they can play with anybody in the state. Tate Vincent just coming off of a knee injury. He's coming back. He kept them in the game against Madison last week, and I think as we get into the playoffs and as his knee gets better and better between him and Colin Kramer, it's a dangerous duo to get to go against. A 4-5 start for that team, but they're 7-2 over their last 9 games.
Once the seeding comes into play, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be unfortunate to end up with them in the pairings just based on their record and
if
things like
things
that.
keep progressing in the right direction, which I think they are peaking right now.
It's that's a scary group, I think, heading into the postseason. All right, new subject now. Which teams aren't getting the pub that they deserve? Give me one under-the-radar team. Again, let's start with North Dakota girls.
Well, it's hard to pick an undefeated team as a team that's not getting enough pub, but I don't think they are. I think Kindred's getting overshadowed a little bit by Minot Bishop Ryan, who's been number 1 in that group all season long. I mean, Alexander Erickson, Alexis Piatz, some team leaders, very deep group for the Kindred Vikings, and I think they'll roll into the state tournament. And, there's some other good teams in Class B, but don't be surprised if they make it all the way to the championship game.
What about the boys' side then?
Boys side, a team like Linton HMB, I mean, just a couple losses on the year, and sometimes when these teams lose early in the year, you kind of just dismiss them, but John Purrington has been one of the best shooters in the state, and the 3 losses that they have all been to very solid teams, and we know the Lions kind of come alive late in the season, and I think they're going to do that again this year. They just got done beating some really solid teams like Ellendale and Solon, teams that had been undefeated just a couple weeks ago.
Keep the circle going back to South Dakota, the most under-the-radar girls team.
You know what? I'm going to go with Sioux Valley. The Sioux Valley girls did lose last night to Castlewood, but that doesn't take them off the list. I mean, this is a team that, again, much like Kindred in North Dakota, has been overshadowed. They've been overshadowed by St. Thomas More all season long, but they just keep winning, and they've got a lot of, again, girls right in that 5'10 to 5'11 range. Not a lot of huge 6-footers, but Carly Peterson and company, they keep on winning. And once they get into the playoffs, don't look past Sioux Valley.
As you said, they're just coming off a loss Tuesday, but this isn't about being perfect, because if you were perfect, you probably wouldn't be under the radar.
That's right.
Save for that Kindred team you mentioned a couple of moments ago. How about the boys now? Let's close it there.
Let's move on to Class B. We gotta go to Elkton Lake Benton, a team that lost a couple of games early on, but they've got one of the best pure players in all of Class B. Heath Schindler is averaging 27 points per game, and he leads his team in rebounding and assists. The thing I like about this team is Coach Steve Erickson. He loves the hustle. He loves the grit. He doesn't care about rankings. He wants to see his team playing their best game at the right time. He keeps track of floor burns on his stats when he sent me a stat sheet. I love that about a coach, and I think Elkton Lake Benton should be getting a little more pub and more recognized as one of the top teams in Class B.
Well, they just might now that you throw them square onto the Varsity Sports radar.
See how they handle the pressure.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, the WDA has become a 2-horse race. KFYR TV's Lee Timmerman will give us a little extra insight on Minot and Century right after this.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
Well, there are two clear frontrunners in the WDA this season, and for a closer look at them and the rest of that league, we bring in Lee Timmerman from KFYR TV in Bismarck. And Lee, the Minot and Century boys have clearly been a cut above the rest of the WDA this season. Is there any other team, though, that you see as capable of contending?
Well, Jason, the short answer to that, I think, is no. Bismarck High, if you take a look at the standings, has 10 wins already, and even I don't think Steve Miller would say that his team is up with Minot and Century. So I think there's a clear division in that conference after the top two teams.
Well, Minot and Century Part 2 is coming up on Saturday. Do you think this game means a little more because Minot is undefeated?
Well, probably in Minot's eyes, because if you don't have a loss, you want to certainly keep it that way. And I think Minot's the best team in the state, and I think Minot should be very disappointed if come March they don't win the whole thing. Does that have a big bearing on, what happens this week in the rematch at Century? Probably not. But is it a game that Century would like? Yeah. Century was ahead up in Minot, and then kind of, to use a term that some of the Patriots have used, blew it in the last couple of minutes. So Minot probably shouldn't be undefeated, but they did find a way to win.
All right, let's switch over to the girls' side now, Lee. Again, it's Minot and Century leading the way here. Anyone else that could challenge them come playoff time?
If you want to, you can take my answer from the boys' side and edit it in right now. Because I think the answer to that is no as well. Belcourt, is similar to the Bismarck High boys, has 10 wins. Belcourt is a much different team on the road than it is at home. Bismarck has some talent, but they're still young, trying to find themselves. But no, I think the top two teams are clearly the best two teams in the region once again.
Okay, great stuff once again from KFYR TV's Lee Timmerman. Now, as we mentioned, some great games coming up here over the next 7 days. And now it's just about time to make our picks. We'll do that, plus let you know who we think should be on upset alert next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
All right, here we go again. It's time for another round of high school hoops pick'em, where it's all about the winners and the occasional upset pick.
Very
Jason
occasional.
Has fared better all the way around so far to this point. He holds a 6-point lead on me coming into this week, but I feel
this
pretty
week
good.
Though I think we've got some of the closest matchups we've had in a few weeks, so this should be a fun one.
Could go either way. All right, let's start with North Dakota boys. Class A, Minot at Century. Obviously, these are the two teams. We talked about it with Lee Timmerman a little bit earlier in the show. A cut above the rest of the field in the WDA.
Yeah.
Certainly two contenders, and it was a really good matchup the first time around.
It was a really good matchup, and it's so hard for a team to go undefeated, especially in a game like this where they probably know they're going to play each other again down the road. It's going to be a tough matchup. It's going to be at home for Century. I think Dalton Feeney is going to help his team to a victory and give Minot their first loss of the season.
So I agree. I like Century in this game.
I thought we disagreed.
They let that one slip away up there. I mean, they had that game in their hands. Some late game craziness allowed Minot to steal that win from them. The Patriots have been very good at home. 14 points, the closest decision for them on their home floor to this point. I agree. I think Century hands Minot their first loss. Same matchup on the girls' side.
On the girls' side, Minot, the girls are playing the best in the state right now. Well, maybe not the state. Shanley's playing pretty good on the east side, but Minot has been unbelievable, especially over the last couple months. I think they go into Century with a lot of confidence, and Cassie Askvig just keeps ramping her game up. They're too good. I got Minot in this one.
This time we're going to disagree. I think although Minot did get the first meeting by 4 back on January 15th, Century, again, very good at home. 6-0 to this point. Both of Minot's losses to this point in the season have come on the road. Maybe it's a perfect storm, but I like Century to not only get the win here, but complete the sweep over Minot in that boys-girls doubleheader. In South Dakota now, boys B, Langford at Warner.
Two great players we're going to watch in this game. Michael Rogers for Warner has done an unbelievable job, and for Langford, maybe the best player in Class B, Bo Freeze. a tough guard to stop. I think at this point in the season, it's going to be too hard to stop Bo Freeze. He just keeps ramping his game up, and I think Langford gets the road win in this one.
This is going to be Warner's third game in 4 days. That's tough for anybody, let alone a bunch of high school kids. I like Langford in this game as well. They're awfully stingy, giving up just over 39 points a game. Give me Langford for the win in this one. Good matchup at girls AA. O'Gorman at Lincoln.
Yeah, this one is going to be incredible. The last time these two locked up, it came down to the last minute of the game when O'Gorman just held on for a win. I think this time around in the Lincoln gym, the Patriots are going to get them. I think they're going to give O'Gorman their first loss of the year. So the second time in these picks, I think an undefeated team will go down. Lincoln gets the win in a very close one.
I know we talked about a few weeks back when you were talking about when some of these undefeated teams might lose. And this was a game that you pointed out then. And you thought it was going to come down to whether or not Lincoln was going to make some shots. That's obviously going to be important in this
There's one other factor in this game is that point guard, though. Lincoln has had 2 of their top point guards due to injury. I think Sydney Miller is a day-to-day situation. If she comes back, it's really going to help Lincoln.
I still like O'Gorman, though. As close as this matchup was, and the Patriots played them tough just a few weeks back, Knights are going to be rested. Lincoln's going to be playing their third game of the week. Again, I think that fatigue factor comes into play in these situations, and so I like O'Gorman. They've answered every test to this point. I think they do it again. Quickly, upset picks of the week.
I think the Lynx girls are prime for an upset. They have Aberdeen next Tuesday night, and I think they get them.
I like, in Class B boys in South Dakota, another undefeated team to get a loss, and that's Faith. Faith, one of only 2 undefeated teams in all of Class B basketball.
Undefeated in the state. They did lose to Hettinger Scranton this week.
Right, okay. Technicality, yes. Second game, again, in as many nights. I mean, some of these schedules just are not playing into these teams' favors. The Scotties are 15-3 after their win over Newell on Monday night. 2 of their 3 losses have come to White River, and we all know what White River's about.
Good squad.
I like Phillip to pull the upset and knock Faith from the ranks of the unbeaten. All right, that is our time for this week. For Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Enjoy the games, everybody. We'll see you back here next week.